Good evening, everyone. This is the Puyallup City Council meeting for December 2nd. It's now called to order. Would you all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for that. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Deputy Mayor King. Present. Councilmember Gillum.
Present.
Councilmember Whitting.
Present.
Councilmember Dorr.
Present.
Councilmember Adler.
Present.
Councilmember Johnson.
Present.
Mayor Castema.
Present. With that, let's move on to item number 1, approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, thank you so much. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Let's move on to item number 2, consideration of minutes. Approval of October 21st, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We will now move on to citizens' comments. And if we could have the city clerk read those guidelines, that would be greatly appreciated.
This part of the meeting is for general citizen comments. Please reserve any public hearing testimony to that section of the agenda. The mayor will call on those who provided their names in advance. Then the mayor will call for other citizens who wish to speak. For the record, please state your name and address or city council district in which you reside. Please direct your comments to the council as a whole, not individual council members. All comments are limited to 3 minutes. The clerk will provide verbal notice when only 30 seconds remain. As a reminder, this portion of the meeting is council's opportunity to hear from the community and not a time to engage in debate. Lastly, per state law, this public comment period cannot be used to speak in support of or in opposition to a ballot measure or individual candidacy, and no such comments will be allowed.
Thank you, Clerk. Appreciate that. With that, I have one person who has submitted a notice that they'd wish to provide comment. Caleb Lemoy. I hope I got that correct. All right, excellent.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the only person. I think that's really cool. Thanks everyone for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Caleb Lemoyne, and I'm from District 2. I'm here on behalf of my HOA known as Fruitwood Creek. Earlier this year, myself and my neighbors were here representing 3 homeowners associations totaling 115 households. I'm not here to complain, if you can believe that. I'm actually here to commend our city's engineering department, specifically traffic engineering, for ensuring that our communities stay safe. Earlier this year, we were here to express concern around a new proposed development off of Fruitland, known as Fruitwood Overlook. The proposal for the development's access highlighted the community's concern for traffic safety, given that the proposed access was within a curve with limited visibility and is directly across the street from Fruitland Elementary School. Fruitland has become a vital arterial in the area, and anyone who tries to commute on that road during school hours or pickup and drop-off times knows this. And the developer of the Fruitwood Overlook plat recently submitted an alternate methods request known as an AMR to get an exception from the city's safety standard by installing 2 light posts, which is a poor and ineffective approach in my opinion. But the traffic engineering department did not grant the approval of the alternative method and is pushing for the developer to engineer safer alternatives, which showcases that they are indeed looking out for our safety. I moved to Puyallup about a year ago from the Seattle suburbs, and I can't say that I've ever felt like any form of government has genuinely listened to the community and done what's best for us. So it's a new feeling. I just wanted to say thank you to the city engineering department and everyone here. Thanks.
Thank you, Caleb. We will certainly pass that on to individuals if they aren't here to hear that themselves. With that, is there anyone else wishing to come forward and provide public comment? You can proceed and without providing, go ahead.
Okay.
And you weren't here for the guidelines, but I think you're very used to those 3 minutes. Certainly go ahead and state your name, etc.
Good evening, council members. My name is Angelina Izquierdo. I'm with Pierce County District 2. My topic is on labor trafficking awareness. Says that I'm a human rights activist, as some of you already know, that's surviving sexual assault and human trafficking. Today, I would like to bring to your attention some labor trafficking awareness and request your attention on increasing the availability and quality of jobs. According to the U.S. Congress Joint Economic Committee website, over the past 12 months, Washington added 19,800 net payroll jobs, and the unemployment rate remained unchanged. I would have to disagree with this. I believe it's gone down. With the statistic due to my and other Washington State residents' experiences who have been burdened with the hardship of trying to get a job all throughout this year. It has been very difficult. In our city of Puyallup, I have encountered many human traffickers, especially this year. They can look like anybody and can prey on anyone, especially those who are vulnerable, which includes the homeless. So the National Human Trafficking Hotline defines labor trafficking as a form of modern-day slavery in which individuals perform labor or services through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. It includes situations of debt bondage, forced labor, and involuntary child labor. By people who use violence, threats, lies, and other forms of coercion to force people to work against their will in many industries. As stated on my website of Angelin Writing, this can be in the form of unfair wages, the exclusion of benefits, and an unbalanced, ever-changing schedule that does not support a work-life balance. So you can go into work one day and have no idea what your schedule is, even though it says it on paper, and that's not legal, including in our state. I ask that this council takes action on fighting back against this issue now instead of later by adding more fair-paying jobs and facing it head-on with a validated process of accepting reports within our community that is much more reliable than the Better Business Bureau. I've tried reporting to them for like the past 6 years, different kinds of jobs that I have encountered, whether they're temporary, part-time, or even full-time. And multiple
30
positions. Thank you. So also with the inclusion of your busy agendas as they keep growing and growing. And also audits of abusive and negative work environments to help improve the quality of all workplaces. Thank you very much and for your time.
Thank you. Next individual, Chris Chisholm.
Thank you, Council. Chris Chisholm, District 2. As you know, the treasurer and founder of Puyallup Voters for Integrity. And I brought 9 copies, one for each of you, and one for the city manager, one for the police chief. If you be so kind to distribute those, I'll give them to the clerk. They're roughly based on the recent blog post that I primarily authored on our Puyallup Voters website. This kind of summarizes the effort that I helped put together during that campaign season last week, I guess 2 months ago now, almost, regarding the tax increases primarily for the police station project and other projects that you enacted over the past year that almost no one in the city that's not civically engaged was aware of. And so I wrote a letter kind of similar to the blog post, but more directed to you. And as I mentioned 2 weeks ago here, I thought I'd bring some more details that were missing from the News Tribune article that was published on the last day of the election. And so I put together a chart that was on the PuyallupVoters.org website and printed that out for you, just kind of comparing the most recent failed proposition that you put on the ballot in 2023 with the project currently underway compared to what some of us who have been involved in Puyallup Voters for Integrity had recommended over the last couple of years. Ownership, of course, now you've enacted a rented station. We had recommended that you just build the police station portion of the ballot initiative you put on there in 2023. The cost that you'd proposed, including a jail in 2023, was $76 million. Without the jail, including the shared groundbreaking costs of the jail and the police station, was only advertised at $44 million. Well, it's advertised $56 million to voters, including a jail. And when I asked for and finally received the cost breakdown, it was going to be $35 million for police station and $9 million for shared groundbreaking.
30 seconds.
And this project underway is $114 million. So depending on how you do the math, it's either 50% more than that ballot initiative that we all voted down and rejected, or maybe twice as much, or maybe 3 times as much, depending on how you look at it. And I think the public really deserves a real cost breakdown on the city website. It's not totaled up. It's never been totaled up. And that's why I think the incumbent sort of got away with that during the campaign season. And we're
Mayor,
reelected.
Sir,
Speaker,
to them,
Thank
you are
you.
through. And again, we want to keep our comments to the council in general and not to individuals specifically. And I will only say, because you made those comments, I always give the council who were in fact identified the ability to respond. I will say, taking into account all of those numbers that you have just shown, this council has unanimously looked at that as being invalid and the decision that they made as being valid. With that, are there any other people who would like to come forward and speak? Seeing none, we'll now move on to the consent agenda. Now, consent agenda is where we have a list of items that they're non-controversial, and they are, with one vote, we vote for all of them. Having said that, is there any item that is on the consent agenda that we would like to have, any member would like to have moved to another portion of the agenda? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to, again, we don't need to necessarily pull it off, but we can. I'd like some information before we pass on item 3B, this sidewalk update on that. So if you want to take care of that beforehand or move it later, it's up to you. But I would like some information, just because that's been for years in the making. I'd love to get an update on what's happening with that. A lot of folks in that area would probably like to hear about that.
Okay, I suggest we take that and we move it to item 6, consideration and requests. We put 3B under that, and it will become 6B, but I will identify it at that time. Any other requests? Hearing none as amended, do I have a motion to approve consent agenda?
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. We now will go into a public hearing regarding the extension of an interim zoning control to accommodate middle housing, which we imposed, I believe, approximately 6 months ago. Katie will correct me on that, the date of that. Please, Katie, if you could go ahead and apprise us of that.
Thank you, Mayor Costema, members of council. Katie Baker, planning manager.
Katie, could you excuse me? Councilmember Johnson, are you up for, Katie, please proceed.
Thank you. Tonight, the item before you is a request for a public hearing and first reading of an ordinance to extend the interim middle housing zoning. Council did adopt this about 6 months ago in June, and that was in order for the city to comply with the June 30th deadline that's legislatively required for us to adopt middle housing into our code. We did this through an interim zoning ordinance to allow for more time for us to go through the Planning Commission and do that work. We are still in that process. We'll be actually meeting with the Planning Commission on this topic next week. So tonight, we are simply asking for a 6-month extension. We anticipate this completing the Planning Commission review process probably in January, potentially February, and then coming back before council for adoption at that time. So I think a 6-month extension is more than sufficient for us to get the work done. Again, tonight, the request is to hold a public hearing and adopt first reading of that 6-month extension. If you do have any input or further direction for us, I'm happy to take that tonight, but we are using the interim zoning that was adopted as the basis for our work with the Planning Commission. So with that, I turn it over to you for the public hearing.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Katie, this is how I think I understand it. So council put this interim, hold on there to study this Lahar zone, if I recall right, the buffer. Is that what the Planning Commission is studying, is the buffer zone for the Lahar, or is it something different?
No, they are specifically studying the incorporation of the middle housing requirements
Okay.
into the RS or single-family zoning chapter. The Lahar study is kind of a separate work item.
But is that included in the package as kind of a sub, or is that completely separate from this?
That is separate, and my understanding is that's on a separate timeline.
Separate timeline. Okay, just want to make sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councilmember Whitting.
When we considered this 6 months ago, those two topics were blended together. I'm wondering why they're now separated.
They are separate work items, and that work has been directed by the city manager. So I know Kirsten Hoffman, our emergency management director, is primarily moving forward with the Lahar study, but that's on a different track than the code work.
Okay, I was aware she was working on that. So we've had some input from the Master Builders Association that this moratorium is causing them some heartburn. So I would encourage us to move this along as quickly as we can. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no more questions, I will now go into a public hearing. Each individual will be afforded 2 minutes for public testimony. Is there anyone wishing to come forward at this public hearing? Okay, seeing none, we will close the public hearing, and I will now entertain a motion to approve first reading of an ordinance to extend the interim zoning controls adopted by Ordinance 3323 to accommodate middle housing allowances consistent with House Bill 11110. Do I have such a motion?
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, opposed?
Nay.
Okay, I'm going to, unless I hear a disagreement, I'm going to discern that that is a 5-2 vote. Is that correct? Unless I hear disagreement. Okay, motion passes 5-2. Let's move on to item number 5, ordinance. First reading of an ordinance granting a franchise agreement to Forged Fiber 37 LLC. Joe Beck, please, our city attorney, please give us a review of this.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. This is a franchise agreement, which, as I have talked to you about in the past, is a master permit essentially for a utility that provides fiber to the city. And this one particularly is with Forged Fiber 37. They are a subsidiary, or will be a subsidiary, of AT&T. AT&T purchased all of Lumen Technologies' fiber business, and that should close early next year. And so they've asked, and they need a franchise to be able to operate the fiber that's already in the city's right-of-ways in the city of Puyallup. So they're purchasing existing fiber. And so they had to apply for this franchise, and they did so. We've gotten to the point where we're ready to ask you to approve that franchise. It has to be done by council through an ordinance, which is before you for first reading tonight. I will say that what we know is that AT&T is looking to improve these assets and provide higher speeds and improved resistance to interference. So their intention is to improve Lumen's facilities in the city. And if you want to think about exactly what they do. They will compete against companies such as Easy Fiber, which we've given a franchise to recently, Comcast, Ziply is another one, Astound, and Zayo. These are all companies that provide the same type of internet service over fiber in our city already and have franchises in the city already. So that's what's before you tonight. It is a fairly routine thing that we do as a city, and I'm asking and presenting this to you for a first reading of, and approval of first reading of the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Councilmember Johnson?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Attorney, I'm pleased to see so many companies coming in and getting franchise agreements. And the reason why I think it's a good idea, it creates competition in which hopefully drives prices down for residents, because when you have one or two kind of monopolizing the market, the rates can tend to be a little higher. So I do like that. And it seems that this fiber optic kind of, new startups are kind of happening all over. Do you see or foresee, not officially, but unofficially, more franchise agreements coming our way from some of these additional fiber companies that may want to create more competition that we might provide for those who want to compete?
Well, we've had a burst, and we've just gone through a burst of five or six, and this looks to be the last of that burst.
Okay.
I don't know of any on the horizon right now.
Yeah.
But you are correct. There has been a burst of these companies wanting to provide this service. I'm not exactly sure what's behind it. I probably should have researched it to figure it out, but I imagine there's some market and then legislation type impetus to this happening. And so, yes, the good news for citizens is that there will be greater competition and more availability, hopefully, throughout the city.
Yeah, I support it just based on that alone, because I think more competition for the same service makes competitive prices and for the same quality, and so I think it's fantastic. So I support it. Thank you.
Okay, further questions? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve first reading of the ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Go on to 5B, first reading of an ordinance pertaining to 2025 routine budget adjustments. Finance Director Barbara Lopez, please introduce the ordinance.
Thank you, Mayor Castema. Good evening, Council. Barbara Lopez, Finance Director. The ordinance before you tonight is our last routine budget ordinance of the year that modifies the 2025 budget for things that have come before Council in the last few months. There are several new grants, capital project funding, a few carry forwards of some unspent monies from last year, and a couple of technical corrections in there. They are all routine items, but I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve first reading.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Let's move on to 5C, ordinance pertaining to parking time restrictions on city-owned parcels located at 208 West Main, 214 West Main. I believe that's the old Black Kettle. Okay. City Manager Steve Kirkley.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Steve Kirkley, City Manager. Very brief introduction of this ordinance. The city owns, as you know, two parcels directly across the street from the Sound Transit lot. One of them was purchased from the school district a year or so ago, and then the other one was purchased about 2 or 3 years ago that's adjacent to the Bank of America surface lot. So one's the gravel lot, the other one's a paved lot. Right now, those are open to the general public starting at 6 a.m. What we have found, been monitoring this the past few months, is that those lots are filling up right around 6 to 7 a.m. and being used by Sound Transit commuters. It's very convenient right across the street. There's plenty of capacity in the Sound Transit garage and adjacent surface lot. So to address this issue, this ordinance would put in parking restrictions that both of these lots would not be open until 8:30 a.m. to the general public. If you have a business permit for downtown business owners, they could park in there starting at 6:30 a.m. But this will hopefully prevent those lots from being used by commuters who are parking there the entire day. So that's the summary of the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions? Councilmember Adler.
Thank you. Steve, can you walk through then what enforcement will look like from 6:30 to 8:30 a.m.? And how enforcement is going to happen?
Yes.
And then
Sorry.
subsequently, what is the fine or the citation violation?
Yeah, so Officer Foytek, who's our parking enforcement officer, is one who's been watching this. I've been watching it, but also Officer Foytek, who and brought this to our attention. So obviously, he will be monitoring it. I don't know what the parking fine is. 35. It used to be $35, but I don't. How much is it? It's still $35. So it will be $35, and this will be monitored by our parking enforcement officer.
So that brings me to my next question, and you know, I don't know if it's appropriate to ask specifics related to an employee and their work hours, but then what are the hours that this position generally works? Because if they're going to be monitoring beginning at 6:30 p.m. and generally our street parking and other lots are, you know, enforced between 8 and 5, that's a very long day.
Yeah, so I don't know his exact hours. The chief could speak to that. But what I would say is that with this ordinance, the public can't park there till 8:30 in the morning. So it's at 6:30 is when this will take effect in the morning. But anyone who is parked in the lot before 8:30 that does not have a business permit will be subject to ticketing.
Right, but so the answer to your question, my previous question was, there will be enforcement, there will be an officer, our parking enforcement officer, likely that is not the correct title, which I apologize, will be working from 6:30 to 8:30.
I don't, 8 to 4:30. 8 to 4:30.
But we're going to have someone doing enforcement from 6:30 to 8:30.
No, I don't think that the parking enforcement officer may not be doing it at 6:30, although an officer could, in theory, any police officer could do that. So it's not just the parking enforcement officer. So we could have, if the chief or other patrol captains decided to have a patrol officer patrol that and issue parking tickets, they can. However, with this ordinance that it's 8:30 a.m., even with the parking enforcement officer coming on at 8 o'clock, he could go and enforce it. And that's why we started it at the 8:30. And I think the reality is once, hopefully, we'll get voluntary compliance, because we'll put notices on vehicles to inform people if council were to approve this ordinance, put notices so people know that this is coming, and hopefully we'll just get voluntary compliance. But if we don't, then yes, we will need to take enforcement action.
I'm fairly confident that there will be voluntary, folks will voluntarily follow the new ordinance, but I just wanted to be clear on when we have our actual parking enforcement officer working. My last question is this: how often then are we reviewing other parking zones that perhaps are seeing new challenges throughout the city? How often are we reviewing those areas or any area?
Yeah.
Councilmember Adler, we are regularly reviewing parking lots, parking issues downtown, particularly with our parking enforcement officer being on full-time now. We actually just completed a comprehensive review of our parking fines. In that was generated from issues like this that we're starting to see with people returning to work on a more frequent basis, going back to the office. So we're regularly looking at that. That is part of the focus of the parking enforcement officer, and he is very attuned to the different parking things that people do who might be commuting on the Sound Transit train in our downtown parking zone. And I did want to add one thing to the city manager's answer. When we make a parking change like this to a parking area, It is not unusual for us to adjust the hours of the parking enforcement officer to be out there for the first week, to make contact and try to educate people before enforcement. We would much rather educate people and find voluntarily compliance rather than initially writing a parking ticket for something that someone may not have realized the rules are changing, so to speak. So when this goes into place, it's our intent to have the parking enforcement officer out there from that time to start from an educational perspective. And the city manager is correct. A uniformed commissioned police officer can enforce any parking ordinance within the city. We primarily rely on our parking enforcement officer due to calls for service and other things.
Thank you. I appreciate the feedback. I do want to be clear that I am wise enough to know that any uniformed officer can cite any person for any violation of a law. So I just have to say that. The last thing I'll say is this: it would be great, especially hearing about a study that you all are conducting at present, to have a presentation in the new year about downtown parking, what you're seeing, what your study has shown, where you think we're going, what do we think the challenges are, and where do we go next. So I'm hopeful that perhaps we can have a real good conversation about that in the new year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adler. Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. Oops. Thank you. I just wanted to say from my new position, I see the traffic enforcement officer quite a bit. He's out, he's about. People know him, they know him by name, and I can see them. So, and I can see an increased officer presence. And I asked the chief that if that was an enforcement thing, but I see a lot of officers walking out on the street. So I'm in support of this, and I would move approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorr. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just as added information purposes to those that are going to be seeing the new change in the time and whatnot, would it be advantageous to put a couple additional larger sandwich board signs at the entrance of these lots, so that way when people are coming and going and they see it, it's a little bit out of the ordinary, in order to have additional information there for the citizens that are parking there. And because an officer is not always going to be there to be able to help that, they might miss the information slapped to their windshield wiper, another situation. So I think maybe the addition of a couple sandwich boards at these locations might help with that. Just my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. Before I vote on this, I want to thank you, City Manager Steve Kirkley, for bringing this change before us. Managing parking in our downtown area is a very dynamic process. As we receive more developments in Puyallup, we have to proceed with caution. This is a good example of us providing opportunities for retail shoppers to park there that would otherwise be taken by a sounder patron who, by the way, the garage, I think, has plenty of space in it, and the parking garage does too, and those need to be utilized. So the patrons who help our retailers, and then also the employees, they need opportunities to park in our downtown area. So I think this is a way of maximizing, more fully utilizing the parking that we have here, and I appreciate you bringing this forward. Having said that, I would entertain a motion to approve this.
So moved.
It's been approved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Excellent. Okay, now we're going to move on to consideration and request number 6 on our agenda. We're going to first, Councilmember Johnson, I will go to what was formerly 3B, but first let's start with 6A, which is the 2026 City Council meeting calendar. City Manager Steve Kirkley, please brief us.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This calendar looks somewhat similar to your meeting calendar from last year. In essence, the pattern that's been developed over the past few years is you have about 2 meetings on average per month, regular meetings, and a study session once per quarter. And so that's been incorporated. We've tried to avoid having a meeting after a holiday just for a variety of reasons. We've incorporated the National League of Cities spring conference, and then also the one in the the annual conference in November. We include the AWC conference in June. And so it generally follows the pattern that you've used for your calendars the past several years. The one outstanding item on there is selecting when you would like to do your council retreat. Typically, that's been done in February, so that is the only other issue. You don't have to necessarily decide that tonight, but I do think that is something that you collectively will need to decide, first of next year.
Thank you. Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My only comment here is to flag that on page 86 of our agenda packet, which is the second page of the proposed meeting calendar. It's the second page, again, page 86. At the top of the page says 2025 Puyallup City Council meeting calendar. Just a flag. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager, I have a question. The number of meetings that we have regular meetings and we have study sessions, and then we have budget meetings and we have the retreat. What do we standardize around the number of actual council meetings? Is there a number that we?
So it's about, regular meetings, it's about 22 to 24 approximately per year are your regular meetings, and then a study sessions, and then the budget study sessions. You'll see this year, the proposed calendar has 2 days for budget study sessions, not the one that it was this year and not 3 previous years. It seems, as we've kind of done this over the past 4 or 5 years, 2 days seems to be enough for a budget study session, so that's one change. But on average, your regular meetings are about 22 to 24 per year, and then the study sessions, and then retreat, and then budget study sessions too.
Okay.
So
With that, I would entertain a motion to approve the 2026 City Council meeting calendar as amended by a recommendation of Councilmember Adler.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, excellent. Now we'll move on to 3B. I actually probably should have put that under other business, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and get an update on 3B. And just to remind everybody, this is for the city to authorize a contract with HCON Incorporated for the 7th Avenue Southeast Sidewalk Improvement Project. Of course, as Councilmember Johnson mentioned, this has been a very important project. So Hans, please go ahead, identify yourself, and then give us an update.
Yes, Hans Hunger, city engineer. So as Councilman Johnson pointed out, we have been at the design of this for quite some time. It shows or reveals the complexity of putting in sidewalks in existing neighborhoods, tying everything into existing landscaping and pathways and driveways, along with really trying to sort out all the utilities that exist. Earlier, we approved a franchise agreement. One of the challenges with so many franchises, so many things, it's more things in our right-of-way that then take up space and trying to accommodate all that. So over the last 3 months, we've been working out there, having the utilities relocating along there. And quite a bit of work ahead of that in trying to find space for all the utilities there. So with that, we had 11 bids, very good bid environment. And so with that, we chose HCON. Our engineer's estimate was $3.3 million, and we came in 20% lower than that with the low bid on that. We have worked with HCON before, and they've been a good contractor for us. And with this, we'll be putting in a little over 2,700 linear feet of sidewalk on that south side of 7th Avenue Southeast.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I follow up on that?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Hans. So you mentioned that the sidewalk is going on the south side of that street. So it'll start kind of, where does it actually begin? Right about where the freeway and it goes all the way down to the end near where it pegs at the end, tees at the end?
Yep, it's going from pretty much where the freeway ends, I believe that's like 10th Street, and it's going all the way to 21st.
It's remarkable. That's a long stretch.
Yep, and we'll have enhanced crossings at locations, because we realize we're trying to get people from the south side of that over to the school areas there, so there'll be some crossings there with rapid flashing beacons put in certain locations.
Yeah, that's great. I know we've been working on that for years. In fact, I'm sure that Councilmember Dorr would remember that we discussed this, I don't know how many years ago. I mean, you got almost 12 years in, I've got 10 years in, and I recall us talking about that quite a while ago. So, and I know there's a lot of issues coming up, that prevented that, but it sounds like this is going to be happening fairly soon. When would we begin to anticipate, the pouring of sidewalks? We're looking at this summer possibly?
I would think a little earlier than that. We'll get the contract executed probably within 4 weeks after we get this approval there. We'll do the pre-con with the contractor to work that out. Utilities will be included there also.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably starting in February, you'll start to see some of the preliminary work in there.
Great. Yeah, it'll be such a nice improvement to the area. With that, are they also doing any, just to belabor it, because I drive down there quite a bit. Are there any, is it just sidewalks only? Are there going to be any lighting there that's going to be added, or just kind of the same lighting that's out there now, which is minimal to none?
It's minimal, but what we always try to do when we're putting in sidewalks is just set ourselves up for the future when maybe money is available. So we'll be putting in conduit and locations planned out where the lighting would be, so that in the future, if we had to put those in, it'd be much easier than having to, again, deal with all existing utilities.
Yeah, I'm glad that you're doing that, because like I say, I take that road in the morning, four mornings a week, and it's kind of a dark road, and I see folks walking, and there's no sidewalk. So the public safety of that's going to be very, very nice. And I do hope that there's some lighting boxes there that at some point could, be triggered and put in there. Just kind of also curious too. Let's just say that if a significant development comes in there and there's already boxes there, could there be some city encouragement? Hey, you need to improve with some lighting that might be added to help offset some of that improvements in the area with certain developments?
Yes, you're exactly right. When a new development comes in, they have frontage improvements, and you do is you compare the existing with what our city standard is, and if there was missing lights there, but we've already facilitated that, that's a pretty easy win for a developer to put in.
Yeah, that's great. And I think at the very end of that T, Cascade Christian School is not too far from there. And so, again, I just think it's a great corridor. So I'm so glad, Mr. Mayor, thanks for letting me kind of pull this off, because it's something that I think a lot of people have been looking for. People in the council have been looking for it, but the residents, oftentimes ask me, when is that sidewalk coming down 7th? And I keep thinking, I don't know, but now it's coming. So I think we're on, the precipice of it happening. It's also going to improve some value in that area to get that nice new curbs and sidewalks. Going to raise the value of our city and the houses, which is good for our economy and economic development. So thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I will remind the council that this is part of the safe school routes prioritization that we have in Puyallup on sidewalks, and it was specifically funded and prioritized because of Spinning Elementary School. And we wanted to make sure that the neighborhoods in that area at least had one side of the road, that their children would be safe when they walk down and feed into Spinning Elementary. That was the priority. That was the discussion at that time. And there was tremendous discussion on what side it would be on, for example, because you have to have a crosswalk that would have the children cross over onto that particular area. It was all designed around making it so that children would be safe when they go to school. And it has been said that we will not be able to provide all the needed sidewalks in Puyallup for approximately 100 years. I know, okay, I'm just telling you the truth, because we have a lot of areas that need sidewalks. So how do you prioritize? And we have said in the past that our children who walk to school are our priority. And this was one of the sidewalks that we prioritized around that issue. So with that, I would entertain a motion to approve, to authorize a contract with HCON for the 7th Avenue Southeast Sidewalk Improvement Project.
So
Do I have
moved.
approval in second?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Let's now, thank you, Hans. We're now going to move on to other business. I see Chris Beal's been patiently waiting on this. 7A is an informational presentation on a draft development agreement for Multicare Good Samaritan Hospital. Actually, I think I'm kind of looking forward to this. Please proceed.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chris Beal. I'm with the city's planning division. So tonight we're giving you a brief overview of a proposed development agreement for Good Samaritan Hospital. So just to give some background, I'll give a few slides here on background just as a refresher. In 2003, we had a master plan and an EIS with a major amendment in 2007 for the initial Dally Tower and some of the initial build out of the multi-care campus in the previous 20 plus years. City Council approved the current Good Samaritan Master Plan on June 10th of 2025, so just earlier this year after a few years of study, as well as a brand new EIS, which was issued and finalized in May of 2025. The master plan governs basically the future build out of the entire campus for the community and the regional need for medical services over the next 20 years, over the next 20-year period. So in terms of bed count, again, this is just kind of overview of what's already been approved in the master plan. The existing Dally Tower has 360 beds. The new patient care tower, again, we'll see a second patient care tower, similar size and scale, just to the east of the footprint of the existing Dally Tower. That'll be an additional 160 licensed inpatient beds, plus 30 observation beds to be transferred over. And then there will be a shell floor, basically a floor that'll be built out in the new tower. This was a similar process that Multicare undertook for Dally that would allow for a future build out of 40 additional inpatient beds that are yet to be licensed, so for a total of 200 net new. There's other phases. There's 4 different phases in the development with other structures and improvements. This is kind of the list. You'll see that there are sub-phases within each of those phases. Again, this is taken from the master plan that's approved. This is the site plan. This is the full build-out site plan. There's probably a better image on the next slide. So this kind of shows you the scale and the scope. The blue portions of the images are the new build-out. Again, this is what council approved in the master plan. This is the full phase 4 build-out of all the potential improvements. A couple of the structures have options, so maybe there will be one less parking garage in this image.
Chris,
But in general-
could I interrupt you? Sorry about this. I appreciate this presentation, but could you walk us through step by step on the buildings by the letter that's used to designate them and identify them and say, this will start construction in this year approximately, and walk us through this development time-wise, please.
Well, I can't identify exact years because the master plan gives a range of years, obviously gives flexibility for multi-care.
Understand.
But in general, what you will see on the first phase is the tower, essentially, along with a small remodel. If you remember during COVID, there was a tent in front of the ER on that lower portion of Dally Tower. That tent is now gone. There will be a permanent structure there. So you'll see the new care tower. There's 2 parking garages here. I'm using my cursor.
Excuse me, will that be next year? Will that break ground?
We don't know yet.
Okay, but potentially what, 2 years?
I think that's probably fair.
Okay, thank you.
We don't have a date certain yet for multi-care.
Right.
So new patient care tower, there's option A, option B parking garages, which is P and I feel like I'm at the eye doctor, Q. So it's option A or option B. There'll be a parking garage that essentially will need to be built to support the new patient care tower. There on the far left side of the screen or the west side of the campus, there's a utility building. That utility plant needs to be expanded to support the structures. So that would be all part of phase 1. Again, there's phase 1A all the way down through C and D. The second phases, there's 2 medical office buildings. Again, I'm sorry, my eyesight's not great. I can't see the exact lettering.
That's
but there's
QU.
medical office building A, medical office building B, and then there will be a parking deck structure that goes with that. And then the future phases, there's a central support tower, which is literally central to the campus. There's an open courtyard. Just to the north of the Dally Tower, there would be essentially a 4 to 5 story support tower there. The uses on that tower have yet to be defined. And then the final phase in phase 4, there's what they're calling the 3rd Street expansion, which is an expansion on the west side of the Dally Tower, kind of over the loading dock area on the west side of Dally, just on the other side of the ER. So that's kind of the full build out and the phasing.
So from beginning to end, how many years?
20.
20, okay. So I'm going to use that kind of a linear sort of analysis and say that the medical offices that are Q and U probably are going to be around 10 to 15 year?
In that range, yeah.
Okay, okay, excellent. So this is all going to happen fairly quickly.
20
And
years goes by quick.
Yeah, that's a fairly short time period. Okay, excellent. Any questions? Go ahead, proceed.
Okay. So just in general, I think this is kind of inherent with any kind of hospital that provides regional medical services, but any kind of development agreement has to have a public benefit. That's required by state law, it's required by our code. Under this draft development agreement, expanding critical healthcare services for the city and obviously the region is a massive public benefit. The other issues, around generating essential sales and construction and property tax revenue, and creating and sustaining local employment. Obviously, Multicare is, if not the biggest, one of the biggest employers within the city, and it obviously provides those substantial public benefits consistent with the state law and our code. So this is kind of the meat of the presentation, the framework of the potential development agreement. These are kind of the 5 areas that would be covered under this proposed development agreement. The first one is permit processes and timelines. So about 2 years ago, we signed a memorandum of understanding. The city manager entered into what we call an MOU. MOUs are a little more than aspirational. They're a commitment by the agency to process permits in a timely manner, and we came up with kind of a customized permit process, obviously given the scope and importance of Multicare. That MOU would get finalized in the master plan, so it would be binding at this point. I will say with the Senate Bill 5290 legislation, it's pretty similar at this point to the 5290 timelines and the processing procedures that are outlined in that. So it essentially would formalize an MOU that's already been signed. There would be provisions for vesting periods for hospital-related improvements. The other big one is customized phasing plan for street frontage as well as voluntary street frontage improvements that are proposed by the applicant. So some of this was covered in the EIS and the master plan. However, it was not fully included in either of those documents. So this is probably one of the more important parts of the development agreement. I'll show a color-coded diagram a couple slides ahead. But essentially, it provides that customized street phasing plan for street frontage improvements, so curb, gutter, sidewalk, street lighting, mainly given that the hospital is so large, it has numerous street frontages, and some of the parcels cover 3-4 different street frontages. It provides a predictable and logical way of assessing those improvements that would occur over time that are more tied to where the improvements are going to occur on the campus instead of just like, well, the first phase comes in, you got to do everything all at once. There would obviously be a diagram that goes with that. Again, I'll cover that in the next slide. Another issue that was covered in the master plan, as well as the EIS, is the timing related to the enhancements for the emergency room ambulance bays. So our folks with our EMS community have obviously raised a number of concerns about capacity in the ambulance bays. There were diagrams that were in the approved master plan, so this is just essentially carrying over the already approved phasing approach for improving the ambulance base. So there's a phase 1 and phase 2. I'll show those on the next slide. But again, just to reiterate, this master plan does have those diagrams in it. It's already conditioned, it's already approved. Multicare felt like it was important to also include it in the next phase of this approval process, so the development agreement. And then finally, there would be an additional exhibit as part of the development agreement that lays out procedures for reassessing traffic impacts in the event that changes are made to the size and scope of the buildings. Obviously, in any master plan, applicants tend to try to demonstrate or show their possible maximum build out, 100,000 square feet of medical office buildings, 2 different buildings. Now, Multicare has acknowledged that because 10 to 15 years out, there could be different needs. There could be a smaller building, there could be a larger building, in which case we likely would be coming back through the process to amend the master plan. But all that said, there are significant traffic impacts related to the development. We covered that during the master plan and the EIS. Multicare just wants to make sure that there is a process in place in the development agreement to reassess what those traffic impacts are when we get to those phases, and if those projects are smaller, that we're not basically mandating mitigation that doesn't relate back to the size of the building, particularly if it's smaller. So again, on this slide, this is the phase 1 ambulance bay improvements. Again, this is in the master plan, but just to cover what phase 1 would be tied to. So it's tied to The earlier of the two, it's of the final inspection of the completion of the emergency department expansion, which is in phase 1, or the issuance of the certificate of occupancy for the new patient care tower, which is phase 1, phase 1A and phase 1C. So these are more immediate improvements that we would see. In fact, I think we're already implementing some of these. Within the ambulance bay itself, we have some turning movement issues. Ambulances essentially queue back from underneath the cover or the porte-cochere that goes into the emergency room. Ambulances oftentimes will spill back into the drive lane, sometimes even having to park all the way out on the street and basically move patients into the emergency room. So in order to deal with this in the immediate term, there are some parking spaces for the police department that are in the ambulance bay, curiously. Those are going to get moved because that is actually a pretty big issue with just turning movements with police cars parked along this wall. There's going to be some changes in geometry in the curvature of the exit to provide additional maneuverability and space for ambulances to move and to stack. The big thing in phase 1 is there will be an additional overflow lane on the south side of that entry as you pull in to the roundabout area in front of the emergency room. There's going to be essentially a new pullout that would provide essentially what would be 2 ambulance bay stalls. The other thing that council did earlier this summer is approved a parking ordinance that allows for emergency vehicle only parking on street in front of the ambulance bays, which was not there before. So that provides some overflow parking for fire, particularly when there is an apparatus in tow with an EMS vehicle. So again, this is phase 1. We'll see this in the more immediate term. The phase 2 ambulance bay improvements is going to be tied to the building expansion that's closest to this. So again, as I had mentioned previously, you'll see on the diagram there that the 3rd Street expansion, this is essentially an expansion and addition right next to where the ambulance bays are on that west side of the Dally Tower. There's a number of different options as to how that could be programmed. It could be additional patient space. It also could just be an expansion of the ER. This is a phase 4 project, so it's towards the back end of the build out of the master plan. But essentially this larger expansion would essentially kind of double the ambulance bay footprint. When you're out at the site, you'll see that there's a big landscape island here as you turn in that actually has a stormwater feature in it. That stormwater feature would get converted and this would get paved over. Likely the cover would get extended, and then they would look at some new geometry around the courtyard and the roundabout, as well as providing those improvements to facilitate basically a double, twice the size of the ambulance bays at that phase. We obviously had a number of meetings with Central Pierce on this, and Central Pierce was in agreement on this phased approach, and so it was included in the master plan and approved. So again, this just carries over what was already approved into the development agreement. This is the frontage improvement phasing plan. So it's a color-coded plan that ties back to the major development projects within each phase. So this light blue color is tied to the patient care tower. The phase 2 is the medical office building A, which is up here off of 15th Avenue, kind of that blue color. Some of this is off-site that is on the frontage of the multi-care parcel, but in portions of the campus where we're not going to see new development. So some of that is voluntary to provide some sidewalk connectivity down 7th Street where we don't have any. Phase 3, which is medical office building B, would provide any kind of necessary, and again, there are frontage improvements on most of these street frontages. So oftentimes what we're talking about is correcting curb ramps, correcting ADA issues, correcting any kind of panels or broken panels on frontages that already have sidewalks. And then in other portions, take for example, phase 4, which is part of the support tower in 13th Avenue. We don't have sidewalks in some locations, particularly on the south side. On phase 4, 3rd Street expansion, we don't have sidewalks on the north side of 13th Avenue. So some of those will be new construction. And again, we tried to tie these improvements more closely with where the affected area of development is going to occur. Again, that's kind of a customized approach given the size and the scale and scope of the frontage, but also given that this one parcel here would have frontage on 13th Ave, has frontage on 3rd, has frontage on 15th. So it's a little bit difficult without a customized approach to know exactly how those improvements would occur. So this is something we've worked with our city engineer as well as Multicare on, and I think we're in pretty good agreement on this and pretty comfortable with this approach. So next steps, what's currently in right now in the Dally Tower, because the two buildings are basically going to be joined, The certificate of need approval from the Department of Health has been basically extended by the fact that Multicare is working on a major kitchen remodel in the Dally Tower. That kitchen facility is going to be sort of a shared facility with the new patient care tower. So we're in permitting and construction on that. One of the other next milestones would be in probably Q1. As long as council is okay with this, we would move forward with a public hearing on this development agreement and have that development agreement approved. And then phase 1A permitting and construction would follow, hopefully next year. That's our hope. So I think that's it, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. Chris, thanks for the working with Central Pierce. As you know, I think kind of sprung that one on you guys when you first brought this to us. And I confirmed with the chief and they have new titles up there, but
Yeah.
I have an email today from them and they are saying, they're generally thrilled that their plan has survived intact. They believe it will make a massive impact on the efficiency and safety of patient transfer into the Good Sam Emergency Department. It represents a good faith compromise on the part of everyone involved, Multicare, the City of Puyallup, and Central Pierce Fire and Rescue to find a solution to the growing problem of congestion for not just our fire department, but all agencies, public and private, that transport to Good Samaritan Hospital. So I know that was not in the original plan, but I appreciate that you got all pivoted and made that happen so we can keep our public safety people moving. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Councilmember Dorr. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Chris, you've been working on this for a while, it sounds like. We're talking, what, a year, 2 years, something?
Yeah, two or three.
Yeah, it really comes through. I mean, you know this thing pretty intimately, and you got the PowerPoint there, but a lot of it is coming because you've been kind of ingrained in this. So I appreciate your dedicated work on that. I'm sure there are others working with you, but certainly you're kind of probably a point, or at least a point of contact on that. I will be supporting this wholeheartedly because of the benefit, the numerous benefits it's going to happen to our city. As I understand, and maybe my numbers are incorrect, but I think I remember last time there was representatives from Good Samaritan Hospital who were here on another presentation. I had asked them to get kind of a gauge on how much economic investment's happening in this. And if I recall right, I'm not going to quote exactly, but I think it's over $430 million is going to be happening right in our city of investment for medical care. For our constituent base and those who are utilizing our hospital, not to count all of the hundreds and hundreds of jobs and good paying jobs that will be coming to our city, which will stimulate housing and other things and goods and services and all the things that our city depends on with resources. So I'm pleased to know that the city is partnering with them and recognizing the value of this, to our city and to this region. And I understand too, and council, I could be mistaken, but not probably too far off. It's my understanding that this new addition that they're doing, they will position themselves as being one of the most premier hospitals in Washington State, as kind of the go-to, competing with some of the, single ones up north that we think of all the time. So this would be your South Sound equivalent to Harbor, whatever that place. Harborview, yes, similar to that. So that's pretty significant when you think about it. Now we're really, you think of big hospitals being Tacoma, but somehow Good Samaritan Hospital is really kind of positioning themselves as being the South Sound, kind of the go-to place. And it's a real testament to Multicare and the leadership, Don and Dr. Corliss and other ones who are at the helm, and many others who have served prior. But I think many decades ago, Good Sam didn't necessarily have that kind of outcome or recognition. It was kind of a smaller hospital that was kind of off to the side, but they've really taken this to a whole new level, and it's quite impressive with the leadership to see how they've taken it to kind of a sideline hospital to a really premier hospital that is something we can be proud of, that's providing great service. So anyway, I'll be supporting this. Chris, thanks for all your work on this. This is exciting. And I could hear excitement in the mayor's voice as well when he was asking the questions. He's ready for things to start breaking ground and getting it going. So I'm glad that the city is affirming its partnership with this investment. We have standards and improvements that we want to see, and we're not going to diminish those standards, but we're going to work with them to make sure those standards aren't a barrier, but we're going to partner with them to make sure the outcome is quality, but not bureaucratic and stuck in the details when we get to find a way to get to yes and still make sure the quality is there. So, Chris, I'm confident in your ability to do that. And if I can just state on a personal note, if you don't mind, how many years have you been working here now?
A couple, yeah, a few.
What, 10, 15?
18.
18, okay. So I've been here about 10 years, and I can honestly say that you've really developed in your role. I remember coming on here 10 years ago, and you were great then, but you've really come to a whole new level. I mean, you're really in a sweet spot in your profession, and it's evident for me to see, from a distance and seeing you come and give presentations. You're just a great quality guy that really knows what you're doing, and you do it in a very non-emotional way, a non-political way. It's just factual, presenting it, and you just do a great job. So again, I say that objectively, but straightforward, recognizing it. And so well done, thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Chris, are you looking for any action by the council this evening?
No, not this evening.
Okay. If there's no further questions, Chris, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. With that, we're now going to move on to the city manager's report. Steve Kirkley, please.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. One final meeting, you have one final regular meeting next Tuesday. On that meeting, some of the primary items will be the public hearing and a consideration of the development agreement for the Bell property, which is adjacent to the existing police station. There will be the annual public hearing on your transportation improvement plan, 6-year TIP plan. There will be a presentation on Briley Lake Park Playground Replacement Project and an accompanying resolution to seek state grant funding for that, and then a informational presentation by the Puyallup Police Department on a potential first responder, drone as a first responder presentation, and the use of drones in their operations. That is the extent of the agenda at this point.
Thank you, City Manager Steve Kirkley. You did leave out the fact that Councilmember Dorr will be having a farewell retirement party, so to speak, at 5:30, so bring lots of Kleenex. And I think there'll be some tears there. So with that, we're going to now go on to council reports. Let's start with Councilmember Adler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I will not be able to be here next Tuesday in person. I'll be participating virtually from Washington, D.C., as I will be there on business. So I'll take a moment to share, although I am sure I will again next week, as she is so deserving. Take a moment to thank Councilmember Dorr, who I am very fortunate to have been able to call a friend for over 12 years now. And, very fortunately, over the last 2 years, a council colleague. I remember it like it was yesterday when you, Frank, and I met at Panera Bread in the evening, really not knowing who you were, so was just going off my gut that you guys were some good people, and little did I know that meeting would turn into over a decade of friendship. What I appreciate most about Councilmember Dorr is your ability to get things done, to focus on the prize, and to do it all with humility. There's no secret that serving in public office has its challenges, but you stick with it for the better of community and because you believe in service above self. And I have so appreciated watching your humility as you have worked through the last 12 years. It's brutal. It's brutal out here sometimes, and I've seen you, I think, disproportionately have to battle some of that more so than others. And you have always walked away from that stronger. And I think that it has driven you to somehow serve with even more heart than you started with, which was already a lot, and to continue delivering for your constituents and for everyone in the city of Puyallup. I know that particularly over the last year, it's been challenging, working through, the loss of your mother, and yet still showing up and doing the hard work has really been moving for me to see that. There are many people that serve with heart, but I have to say that among all of the individuals that I've had the opportunity to work with, work for, and work alongside, you certainly have one of the biggest hearts. And I have appreciated that because, again, public life and public service, sometimes that heart gets lost in translation. But you've never let that deter you. So thank you. And you really, someday we should have a presentation truly on all of the hours of incredibly hard work that you put into South Sound 911, Central Pierce, and just your unwavering commitment to both of those organizations. I know who I'll be calling when I'm trying to figure things out related to those organizations and how to carry on, your good work and ensure that that good work isn't lost. So thank you. You will be extremely missed, and I'll wait for the real heart-tugging moments for next week so we can ensure that your Kleenex is there, as the mayor said. Other than that, I'm very sorry to also say that I will miss our city's annual Hallmark movie moment this Saturday for our Santa parade and our tree lighting here in the downtown core because I will be traveling, and I really look forward to seeing everyone. And I'm just very grateful that we continue to have such an opportunity to come together. And truly, it is exactly what Hallmark movies wish that they could achieve and recreate in their movies. So I'll see you on the screen next week. Thank you, Julie, for giving so much of your time, your treasure, your energy, your family. Frank, thank you. Brianna, TJ, we appreciate you and being so generous with your mom. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Adler. Appreciate those words. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to comment on, I believe, the constituent that spoke tonight. One of the council comments was named Caleb, if I recall right. So I wanted to address his comments, which I think mirror similar to my thoughts regarding the city, and I believe mirror many other folks. When I first moved many years ago, I was part of a bigger city, Tacoma, and also in Pierce County, and the connection with, or the appearance of connection with city staff seemed obscure, and you were just another number. I remember moving to Puyallup, and there was a proposed development that was going to be going on to the south of my property, my home, where they wanted to put in 3 duplexes on this lot that had no precedence of anywhere in the neighborhood, with houses going deep into the backyard. And so, young 30-some-year-old Dean Johnson decided to take a little activism and try to go against that. And anyway, I remember meeting with, reaching out to one of my council members, which at that time was, I believe it was Kathy Turner, Mayor Kathy Turner. And actually, she was mayor at the time, and she came to my home and sat at our dining room table with her husband and began to go over kind of our concerns with this development and the impacts it would have on our property. And then she connected us with city officials who began to help us kind of make sure that this really an impact. And there's a point to this, which I'll come back to Caleb. Not everything went the way that I wanted it, but I left that experience working with the city that they heard me, they listened to me with sincerity, and they came out with the best possible outcome that was fair and equitable to everyone. Man, that was such a great experience. And I heard that in Caleb tonight. He said he came from Seattle, wanted to move here, I presume, with his perhaps family. I at least saw someone who was with him. Chose Puyallup. Had an issue going on up there with some development, and he said the engineering staff of our city was working with him, and he felt that was something very, very rare and worth commending. I think I heard him say that, or imply that maybe it wasn't everything they wanted, but he knew that the city was taking care of or listening to their safety concerns to make sure that traffic didn't impact. So it's a real testament to the city of Puyallup, and I just don't want. I don't think it's by chance that this is happening. I think it's intentional. I think it's cultural, and it's something that we should continue to encourage. It's not that we've arrived. We want to continue to improve. Much like where I work for Nordstrom's, there's a reputation. Customer service is amazing, but we've never arrived. We're continuing redeveloping what customer service looks like. And so thanks, Caleb, for sharing that kind of impression and impact. And thank you, staff, for providing that kind of impression with folks, knowing that you care, you're concerning, and you're making sure that they're heard. And if possible, to do what you can to arrive at a yes and not just be abrupt and checking the list off. So, Council, that's a long way of saying when I heard that, it took me back 30 years, and it's a real mirror story, and it's wonderful, still going on and improving in our city. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I really wanted to talk about. It was quite reflective. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Gilliam.
Thank you, Mayor Casma. I definitely agree with all the comments Councilmember Adler shared regarding Councilmember Dorr. I'm going to save some and prepare some stories for next week because she's a precious woman in the heart of Puyallup, and I think we'll definitely give her time next week. I did want to do a huge shout out for the Puyallup Main Street Association. When you drive down Meridian, all the snowflakes are up on the business structure, so when you drive down it, it feels so homey and delightful, and it brings out with the days being darker sooner, it's a little bit rough. But we have a lit up street, so if you just need a little holiday cheer and just a little pick me up, you just drive down Meridian. So thank you, Puyallup Main Street Association. I believe our very own Rich Guzman did all the hard work, but I'm sure there's others that poured their hard work into that as well. I just happened to see him with his vest on for security, and I saw his lift. So I was like, go Rich. I also wanted to do a reminder. Everybody knows we are having the Santa Parade this Saturday. If you don't have your chair or your seat reserved by like noon, good luck getting a seat. I know Meridian is going to be packed, or wherever the path is will be packed with families and friends gathering to watch that. I also wanted to do a shout out to Councilmember Adler. Today is the day after her birthday. So happy belated birthday, Councilmember Adler. I hope you feel super special and you had an opportunity to truly celebrate because you're worth it and you're amazing. I feel old. You feel old? It's the cold weather. It's not you. I did have the opportunity to attend a meeting here in City Hall on November 19th. It was the West Stewart Bike Lanes Project Open House. And we had some residents come and speak about learning about what was being prepared. And we had a couple of bike riders that were anticipating the bike ride. I really appreciated the community discussion and open forum. I was very, very proud of our city staff to share all the work of a good couple of years that went into this project, and to hear the residents share the concerns, hear the bike riders share their concerns and praises. And then Hans shared with me that they've made some adjustments. So I believe the residents will be really a lot happier, and I believe the bike riders will still be proud, and I think it will still beautify Puyallup and create alternative transportation for our residents and people coming into Puyallup. So I'm really, really, really proud of the city staff and all the work and the presentation and the professionalism. Well done, Hans and team. And I just wanted to make sure the residents know about this. We have a really wonderful staff here in the city of Puyallup that are working hard on your behalf. Thank you, Mayor Castema.
Thank you, Councilmember Gilliam. Councilmember Whitting.
I don't have an awful lot to say tonight, but we do have our banners at the end of the room here about Puyallup always in season, and we are in the holiday season at this time of year. It's a wonderful time of year for family and friends to get together and celebrate and eat a little too much and do all those things that we enjoy this time of year. And I'd just like to wish everybody a happy holiday season. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Whitting. Councilmember Dorr.
Thank you. So we have buying PMSA reports up here. So Councilmember Gilliam covered the parade. It starts at 5 o'clock. And at 6:15, we will have our ceremonial tree lighting. There will be carolers from Puyallup High School. There's all kinds of fun stuff. So don't let the parade, just keep following it. Go with the parade and come to the park. We have our holiday market will be going from 12 to 7 p.m. that day. So that'll be in the pavilion, and that's always lots of fun. So we hope to see everybody out there. And one of my first challenges in my new job was to come up with the Grand Marshal. And I was trying to figure out who that could be. Who could be the Grand Marshal, and what does that mean? What does that mean for me? And I saw Joe Tucci out in the rain, pouring down rain with his flag, 90-year-old, making sure that those kids were crossing the street safely. And it just made so much sense to me, because the Tucci family, they do not do anything they do things for the right reason. They do things because they care. They're multi-generational Puyallup family, and I just see them everywhere doing good works. So I'm super excited that we have two Grand Marshals. We have Joe and Margot Tucci. Will be leading the parade and I think there'll be some grandkids in tow there. And that's what it's about community. Hans, I'm just going to tell you, because I don't know if you'll be here next week. I appreciate my sidewalk. That's what my kids know it as, is my sidewalk. The Safe Routes to School, was an initiative that was super important to me, and I'm glad to see that 7th is getting done. But I'm gonna keep bugging you because I'm waiting for my connection from Wildwood Park to Bradley Lake, or from Wildwood Park Drive to Bradley Lake, so all those kids could get across and wouldn't have cars. So I just needed to let you know I'm still gonna be bugging you a little bit on that one. Nice try though. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Dorr. Deputy Mayor King.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As we head into December, I wanted to highlight a few things, but it seems my colleagues have knocked them all off my checklist here for the most part, other than the Victorian Christmas Festival at the Washington State Fair is happening again. It's always a local favorite. As well as the Puyallup Night Market, December 4th and 11th, as well as the Holiday Magic returning to the fairgrounds. And you can check out their website for more information there. But I encourage our community to come out, support our local vendors, businesses, and enjoy these events that make Puyallup such a special place during the holidays. The Councilmember Dorr, thank you for your service. I've known you for quite some time. Back in our time serving together in Kiwanis, bantering back and forth. Always a good conversation, and this line of work is not easy and not for everyone, and you've weathered the storm well. And so thank you for your service, and continued blessings in your new role, and all the best to you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor King. I'll be brief. I'll see everyone next Tuesday, and I will see, I think, majority of people here on the Santa Parade, which my favorite experience there is going to be the choir. The Puyallup High School Choir is now making it an annual event that they will be singing in front of the Christmas tree, at the Christmas tree lighting, and talk about a Hallmark moment. So I will see you this Saturday at the parade, but then I will all join you again for the final meeting of the 2025 year next Tuesday. So with that, thank you all for a wonderful meeting. Appreciate all the input. We are adjourned until next week. Thank you.